so I have to keep it like video game music. And I was very naughty there. I might have actually caught, or no, I don't think I would catch anything. No, I'm okay. Hi, Kitty. Yeah, we were talking about you, Kitty. Miss Cat Food Breath. Yeah, you. We were talking about you. You're the best hunter in the world, Kitty. We love you. We love you. My keyboard is low on power. I'm gonna have to plug it in. Damn it. Ah, Kitty, I'm trying to plug this in and you're in my way. Yep. So I'm just gonna try and do things around you. Hello, Kitty. I love you. Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel is back. I don't care about that, but I'm glad that they didn't get anybody. Junkrat. I'm gonna make a political statement. I really don't like Junkrat. I really don't like Junkrat on either side of my team. I'm sorry. Yeah, like I'm sorry, but I don't.
The
You know.
context
Oh,
of something known as NPM. Now you might be like, well, Moody, I heard about crazy hacks all the time. What is so new about this one? Well, I want to just start by showing you something that you may not know exists. This is NPM, which for anybody that doesn't know what NPM is the largest software repository in the world, okay? For the JavaScript fellows, this is where you go to get access to a whole bunch of packages that saves you time and whatnot. Now, what if a lot of those packages, some of the most popular ones, consisted of malware that was out there to drain your money and steal your personal information? So, this is actually consisting of two hacks. Now, the first sign of this hack that actually happened, the first vector, was an account known as Kix. Now, Kix is an account that actually runs and maintains some of the most popular packages in the entire game. So some of these packages like debug, like color, like leaf, these are packages that billions of downloads occur to on a weekly basis. Okay, these are very popular downloads. Now, what effectively happened over here? Well, let's get down
hi,
to it.
Kitty. I love
Now,
you.
how did Kix get hacked? All right, did they run some crazy
I'm a
malware? Did
competitive
they,
Overwatch, so
click on a spooky ad? No, actually, it's how most hacks tend to happen. They clicked on a phishing email. Now, thankfully, due to this graph provided by Baroni, they could show you exactly what was happening, right? The attacker sends a phishing email from a phishing support email link over here, which contains a link that once it takes you to a fake login page, obviously the victim in this case, Kix, would then provide stolen credentials and two-factor authentication tokens. See, much like YouTube hacks, whenever somebody clicks on a shady sponsor, they usually grab your Google or YouTube authentication tokens and go to town on your channel, enough to the point where they instantly convert it to a scam live stream, and YouTube promptly removes that YouTube channel, and of course a hacker
what?
gets sued with the YouTuber who has to get that channel back. But in this case, the attacker now adds malicious code to the NPM packages. And because nobody is the wiser, everyone mass downloads these packages. So because Kix had his account hacked, Kix was a maintainer of popular software. And so the hacker in this case was able to inject serious malicious code into very popular NPM packages, making it the largest, from my understanding, supply chain hack in history, or at least in NPM scope, which is actually pretty large, okay? Tons of JavaScript guys, tons of people use NPM. This really is an important resource for people that are developing and whatnot. So at this point in time, if one person gets hacked, you have to ask the question, could somebody else in this chain also be downloading and possibly clicking on phishing links? I mean, it's possible. Generally, when you get hit with phishing stuff like this, it's always imperative you start changing your password, you start reissuing tokens, you start basically invalidating all of the hacked credentials as quickly as you can. So basically, if you received an email from support at npmjs.help and you followed whatever instructions were provided by the scam phishing email, you were pretty much impacted. For a lot of people who wanted to know if they were actually infected, they could run these quick commands to see if somewhere in your dependencies tree malware existed. So for the Kix hack, what was actually the malware that was running? So in this case, the malware that was actually running in this situation was a crypto stealer malware. And of course, one sample that was provided was actually right over here. So this is deobfuscated from Security Alliance. sell. Now, generally, you can see that obviously it's looking for, again, Ethereum, it's looking for Tron, it's looking for LTC. This is a crypto stealing malware. And of course, the job for this is to always sniff for crypto credentials. So when you reverse engineer the actual malware, when you start to deobfuscate it, you can see that for at least Ethereum requests, it overwrites the destination address of any call to approve, permit, transfer, and transfer from, so any of these calls, to an address known as OXFC4A4858. Now, again, you can also take this Ethereum address and kind of get a rough idea and see through Etherscan just how much money was possibly sent over, right, through these compromised crypto wallets. Now, you can see from 10 days ago, the actual NPM exploiter from all these various accounts ended up amounting, at least in this wallet's Ethereum value, to $454.
Out of my chest.
And of course, that's not really a whole heck of a lot when you figure that this is one of the largest exploits in history. So
not anymore.
What was really funny about this hack and what was really hilarious is that despite the actual magnitude, the attacker may have actually stolen a very minuscule amount of cash. Somewhere around, from my understanding, $500 to $600 US. So realistically, what's funny about it too is like if somebody was using this to financially like enrich themselves, they made nothing. But surprisingly, if you add in the cost of all of these cybersecurity experts that were basically tasked on with, cleaning this hack or dealing with the aftermath, probably cost far more down the road and impacted probably millions of dollars of
Stay down, kitty.
actual contracts at some point because of this hack. Now, obviously, this hack was pretty huge in one way, but there was an even bigger hack that had happened. See, there were actually two breaches.
No.
Now, what we're going to talk about is a self-replicating worm, and this is something known as the Skycatlive hack, which happened a few days afterwards. So basically, a self-replicating supply chain worm now infected about 100 to over 200 different
Keyboard right
NPM
now.
packages.
See it?
And in fact, as I'm recording this video,
Keyboard right now.
there are
Nope.
more and more
Job.
that appear to actually be
Job.
coming up.
Keyboard, kitty.
So I'd be like, how did this happen, Muda? Where would this have happened? How did this occur?
It's okay.
So for instance, right over here, this is just one of the actual packages that I believe was infected. And you can see that weekly downloads for this kind of stuff is huge, 2.2 million. So when you factor in how many people are downloading
just full-blown leave this one.
It's a lot. And again, the target for this are people that are developers. So how did this actually happen? So the self-replicating worm, what it does is it steals the developer or cloud credentials, which are basically the developer GitHubs, their Azure tokens, AWS, and then using malicious actions on GitHub, it then starts reinfecting various other packages. Hence why it's dubbed a worm, right? It just keeps worming its way through the entire system. So as it hits one package, it then tries to see if it can infect 2 more packages or 4 more packages, or however many more the worm goes. Now, when people were investigating the first guy that was hacked in this, apparently it was the account Tech Support RXNT, which is where the first implementation or the first showcase of this Skycatlive worm actually showed up. So according to the guys at Checkmarks, how Skycatlive works is infected repositories include a JavaScript payload that performs many actions, including downloading an open source secret scanner to start identifying those various developer credentials, the most important thing that they're going after. Then it starts by doing this by probing the various AWS or those cloud environments. So again, it determines if those defenses are in place and then starts staging next portions of its attack. So anytime the worm finds valid credentials, they get sent back and are then used to help propagate more and more infection. Now, the history of worm software is interesting. If you want to know how a worm works, you can look at the first computer virus in history, which is Creeper, which again, the concept of Creeper was it was a software that would go through ARPANET, for instance, and again, it would simply just replicate it. It would be the first self-replicating computer worm. And it wasn't really malicious software. It would basically just output, I'm the Creeper, catch me if you can. So again, very minimal impact. It was just a test. And because Creeper was the first worm, obviously we developed Reaper, which was technically the first antivirus software because its job really. At the end of the day, what they're doing is they're actually targeting developers in this case. So rather than targeting, your crypto wallets or just the end user, their idea here is to get as much information on these developers as they can. They're trying to possibly steal secrets and then possibly find other compromises or, again, vulnerabilities down the road. The idea is not so much targeting me and you, it's actually just targeting the developers, because secrets in that world are just worth a lot more from my understanding. What about now? What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? What are we going to be doing going forward? Well, as it's still ripping itself through, it's certainly not as large as the Kicks attack that happened before, but I think the funniest thing about the Kicks attack is just the headache that was coming from it, and the fact that the actual hacker behind it literally earned almost nothing through the process. Now, of course, if you're the end user, depending on what Shy Halud is used to grab, like what kind of information the people behind it are grabbing, this could actually have a trickle-down effect if the secrets behind some of these software vulnerabilities trying to be discovered could be used against you down the road. But again, for the first attack, the crypto one, obviously nothing really massive happened. You're talking about, a theft of pennies to maybe $500. Okay, very small take. Very small amounts of cash to be earned from arguably a pretty massive supply chain attack. But Shy Halud is a very interesting hack in this situation. It's really one of the most interesting sort of worms that has sort of come out. It's hitting multiple different packages inside arguably one of the largest repositories. And again, the people that are researching this kind of a hack to figure out, where this worm is coming from, who's really behind it, and again, what the intentions of it, it's just an ever-escalating story. And again, Shy Halud is something that isn't entirely made on its own. Obviously, it uses software that you can even get access to and play around with. Software like this, for instance, TrufflePod, which is one of the pieces, one of the components, which again was used to find quote-unquote the leaked credentials. You'll be like, how does this just sit inside GitHub for anybody to play with? And the thing is, ultimately, when it comes to cybersecurity, right, people can literally engage with this kind of software in a good faith. Or again, stuff like this is kind of like playing with a Swiss Army knife. Okay, there's a lot of bad things you can do with a knife. There's also a lot of good things you can do with a knife. It really depends on the intention of the person who's tying the actual piece. But ultimately, look, at the end, I don't think Shy Halud is led by anybody that wants to do anything good. Shy Halud, other than being a cute nod, from my understanding, to like Doom, really is just a piece of software where, again, I want to know who's behind it, because ultimately they're there to target the developers, and they're there to find, some level of vulnerability, and ultimately, I think down the road, whatever they find, either they sell it to another group to use against the end user, or just against, people who are developing software. But the moral of the story here is, obviously, you might not know what NPM is, but the people that design the internet that you work on or the various tools that you use absolutely know what NPM is. And for those people, it is absolutely pant-shitting moments. Because anytime you download a package, you do have to do your due diligence to make sure whatever you're running isn't infected. And you always have to remember that anytime you get a phishing email, anytime you get an email, always verify where the fucking domain is from. Because ultimately, all these hacks kind of started, it seems, from people, well-meaning people, educated people, ultimately falling for a phishing link. Which goes to show you that no matter how smart you think you are, it's always possible for you to get scammed. And when you get scammed, sometimes the repercussions can be extreme. But yeah, one of the largest supply chain attacks happened in history, actually. And is it bad? Yeah, it's pretty bad. But ultimately, I'm sure the people behind it, the teams behind this, are doing their absolute best to clean shit up. And in some cases, at least when it came to the first crypto attack, how do you have such a massive attack and you can't even make 1,000 bones? That's just funny, dude. Anyways, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe, just like it I.
Oh, I love you. I got her.
Starting it's massive. Charlie Kirk Memorial Services.
Collapse, collapse. Point, point, point.
Happened just yesterday.
Bomb, bomb.
Kirk almost 2 weeks after he was killed. It highlighted an
Through the wall,
explosion,
sorry.
especially with where we are in this. So just to start things off, I'll let you know that you have tens of thousands of people that were in and around the stadium, including at least 20 many of them were getting spot, as well as several current Republican lawmakers, Johnson, Senator Ted Cruz, and former Congressman Matt Gaetz. And then you also had conservative commentators and right-wing influencers like Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, Laura Loomer, Kyle Rittenhouse, Elon Musk. And actually with Elon Musk, I mean, that's one of the first big takeaways. Musk sat next to Trump for part of the service. The two of them received shaking hands and chatting. You know, a very different scene from just months ago where they had a very public falling out, Musk insinuating that Trump was affiliated with the Epstein files. And then actually, after their chat, Musk posted photos on the service with captions. But then going back to the memorial, it began with Kirk's friends speaking about him and his work, as well as
Good shit.
USA discussing what's next for the organization.
We're gonna make TPUSA so big that it reaches you in heaven.
And to that point, according to Turning Point, the organization has received more than 62,000 requests since Kirk's death from students across the country to either start a chapter or get involved with an existing chapter. And donations they've also reportedly been pouring in. But then, as far as what else we saw, you had a number of religious speakers speaking about the mission. And that is also something that this was seemingly a combination or a coming together of religion and politics. One of the ways that people kind of saw that being connected was when you had J.D. Vance saying this.
He is a hero to the United States of America, and he is a martyr for the Christian faith.
So there you have, the authorities have presented evidence that religion played a role. With that, you have people saying that this event as a whole, it showed the extent to which conservative Christianity and Christian nationalism is making its way into the Republican Party. And then with that in mind, you had people pointing to things like War 638 said, talking about this like war.
Over time, he realized, like so many of us have,
You gotta dislodge me, bitch. Dislodge me. There's the barrage. Oh, yeah. Oh.
It's not a political war. It's not even a cultural war. It's a spiritual war.
And then others like Jesus.
Christ died at 33 years old. But he changed the trajectory of history. Charlie died at 31 years old.
Why do you keep saying that?
He had surrendered.
Stop. Okay, a minute 27. Nice. That's a good pick. Good pick. Nope. You're not doing it, bitch. You gotta dislodge me. You actually gotta do it. You actually gotta do it. Yep.
He also now has changed the trajectory of history.
Definitely the person who kind of got a lot of attention on this front was White House Deputy Chief of Staff Miller, who repeatedly referred to the enemy that they were facing, also bringing the situation as a fight between good and evil.
The light will defeat the dark. We will prevail over the forces of wickedness and evil. They cannot imagine what they have awakened. They cannot conceive of the army that they have arisen in all of us. And to those trying to incite violence against us, those trying to foment hatred against us, what do you have? You have nothing. You are nothing. You are wickedness, you are jealousy, you are envy, you are hatred.
Then,
Your hatred?
administration, you had Tucker Carlson invoking religion in a way that many criticize as being anti-Semitic.
It actually reminds me of my favorite story ever. So it's about 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem, and Jesus shows up.
You're telling this story from 2,000 years ago. The last time you were relevant.
Talking about the people in power, and he starts
Why do you look so much like Hitler and sound so much like Hitler?
doing the worst thing that you can do, which is telling the truth about people, and they hate it, and they just go bonkers. They hate it, and they become obsessed with making him stop. This guy's got to stop talking. We've got to shut this guy up. And I can just sort of picture the scene in a lamplit room with a bunch of guys sitting around eating hummus, thinking about what do we do about this guy telling the truth about us? We must make him stop talking. And there's always one guy with the bright idea, and I can just hear him say, I've got an idea, why don't we just kill him? That'll shut him up. That'll fix the problem. It doesn't work that way.
And with that, you had a lot of people reacting to that, saying that Carlson kind of just espoused what's considered a common anti-Semitic trope that the Jews are responsible for killing Jesus. But then, after all of that, it eventually came time for Charlie's wife, Erica.
But that's the right wing.
Her celebrating what she called the inspiration that Kirk's murder had given to his supporters to embrace Christianity.
After Charlie's assassination, we didn't see violence. We didn't
The Jews did not kill Jesus. Wasn't it the Romans?
see rioting. We didn't see revolution. Instead, we saw what my husband always
White
wanted
people.
he would see in this country. We saw revival. This past week, we saw people open a Bible for the first time in a decade. We saw people pray for the first time since they were children. We saw people go to a church service for the first time in their entire lives.
Right, but then all of that, it led to what's been seen as one of the most powerful moments from the whole thing, and that was Erica saying this of the man who killed her husband.
My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men, just like the one who took his life.
Junkratz.
The answer to hate is not hate. The answer we know from the gospel is love, and always love. Love for our enemies and love for those who persecute us.
And then, after Erica, you had Trump, who he joked or said that he didn't agree with Erica.
Shortly
Junkrat.
before Charlie arrived on campus, the day he was assassinated, a staff member texted him that there were
None.
many critics and
Junkrat. Who do you love? None. I do them all. Who do you hate? Junkrat.
That actually made him feel good because he wanted to convince them. He understood. He really did. He understood what was right, and he was right about that. A lot of it was based on common sense, by the way. Charlie wrote back to the staff member saying, "I'm not here to fight them. I want to know them and love them, and I want to reach them and try and lead them into a great way of life in our country." In that private moment on his dying day, we find everything we need to know about who Charlie Kirk truly was. He was a missionary with a noble spirit and a great, great purpose. He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent.
Yeah, you do.
I don't
You
want
suck.
the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Eric.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
But now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe
You're
they
like
can
a
convince me
petulant
that that's
child
not right, but
who
I can't
lost
stand my opponent.
And then with
at
that, you have Trump
hopscotch.
repeating his claim that political violence comes largely from the left and that left-wing protesters are often paid agitators, and saying again his administration would be looking into it.
The Department of Justice is also investigating networks of radical left maniacs who fund, organize, fuel, and perpetrate political violence. And we think we know who many of them are.
And with all that, Trump's speech at times
That's
it
not-
sounded more like a campaign speech than a eulogy to men. He spent several minutes talking about his administration's efforts to reduce autism rates and his decision to deploy the National Guard from Hayden to Washington. And he actually claimed that Kirk had urged him to dispatch federal troops to Chicago.
One of the last things he said to me is, "Please, sir, save Chicago. We're going to do that. We're going to save Chicago from horrible crime."
But with all that, Trump's comments about hating his opponent have definitely drawn kind of the most attention. Not only because it would go against what Erica Kirk herself said and claimed her husband believed, but also because they're not just words. They appear to be backed up by what Trump has done and continues to do. With another one of the big things this weekend being directing Attorney General Ken Bondi to do more to prosecute his political enemies, including FBI Director James Comey, Senator Adam Schiff, and New York Attorney General Letitia James. And it's not like, according to anonymous sources, right? You had him writing on social media. And I've reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story as last time. All talk, no action. Nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Schiff, Letitia? We're all guilty as hell that nothing is going to be done. We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility. They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times over nothing. Justice must be served now. And connected to that, you also had him complaining about the now former U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, Eric Siebert, calling him a woke rhino who was never going to do his job, and adding, he even lied to the media and said he quit and that we had no case. No, I fired him, and there is a great case, and many lawyers and legal pundits say so. And with that, Siebert technically resigned on Friday, though clearly with no voice in the matter. And that is reportedly because his district is actually the one investigating Letitia James and James Comey, but he wouldn't bring charges against them without sufficient evidence. And in fact, similarly, administration officials have reportedly ramped up pressure against the U.S. Attorney in Maryland, Kelly O'Hayes. She's a career prosecutor who has spent more than a decade in that office, and she's been leading Raise the Ship as well as Trump's national security advisor to critic John Bolton. Hayes has also reportedly indicated that she won't bring charges unless the team has evidence to support them, which I should note, of course, is what prosecutors are supposed to do. Of course, we're gonna have to wait to see what happens. Hayes still has no job for now, and then also to take Siebert's place, you have Trump recommending an attorney who is on his personal legal team and has never been a prosecutor. So just ultimately, it looks like you have Trump taking his personalization and politicization of the Justice Department into a whole other level. And then, of course, as we're seeing Trump and other officials directly tie Kirk to the stuff that he's doing, we have to wait to see how that continues to develop. But it seems like they are emboldened and powerful. Of course, in the meantime, yes, this is a news show, but I also want to be conversation. So I'd love to know your thoughts, opinions, reactions, and even questions that are popping up in your mind as you're seeing all this. The next up in the news, let's talk about the continued Jimmy Kimmel fallout and the reactions, especially because, one, as I was putting up today's show, we got the breaking news that ABC's put Kimmel back on the air starting Tuesday. And two, before all that, I mean, we saw name after name chiming in on this whole situation and what it means for free speech. Because after Disney and ABC pulled him off the air last week, there was a ton of discourse about government censorship because ahead of the suspension, you had FCC Chairman Brendan Carr suggesting that he might take regulatory action against ABC over comments that Kimmel had made about Charlie Kirk's death. Right? A lot of the criticism was coming from people on the left, upset that the Trump administration was seeking to wield power in this way, and that ABC sort of influence. Of course, that, as with many MAGA voices, cheering the decision on, classifying it as simply a corporate move on ABC's part. But also now, in more recent days, some on that side of the aisle have vocalized concern here, including Senator Ted Cruz. So with Cruz saying that while he's personally glad to see Kimmel unemployed and even thinks that he deserved it, he's not happy about the FCC's role in this mess.
Look, I like Brendan Carr. He's a good guy. He's the chairman of the FCC. I work closely with him. But what he said there is dangerous as hell. He says, we can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way. Yeah. And I gotta say, that's right out of Goodfellas. That's right out of a mafioso coming into a bar going, nice bar you have here. It'd be a shame if something happened to him. I think it is unbelievably dangerous for government to put itself in the position of saying, we're going to decide what speech we like and what we don't, and we're going to threaten to take you off air if we don't like what you're saying. And it might feel good right now to
How is
threaten
it
Jimmy
contested?
Yeah.
But when it is used to silence every conservative in America, we will regret it.
And Cruz, you know, he wasn't alone. You the likes of Ben Shapiro joining in, saying if the FCC can do this to a liberal voice of the Trump administration, this is a
9-1, baby. Yeah.
I do not
Best
like
on the
FCC muddying
team.
the waters yet.
Woo!
I think it is bad politics, and I think it is bad policy. The FCC should not be threatening action against ABC or its affiliates or Disney based on Jimmy Kimmel being a jack. Because one day the shoe will be on the other
9-1,
foot.
baby.
Ultimately, there, you know, we're gonna have to wait to see if voices on that side grow louder, or if it even sways the conversation at all. Because if you look out there, there are a lot of people that are saying, you know, this is about revenge, saying that Republicans have been previously wronged, and so the government should actually get involved. But with all this happening, you know, you're sort of seeing the usual suspects still taking a stand against ABC and Trump amid all this.
9-1,
Just
baby.
This morning, you had hundreds of Hollywood figures teaming up with the ACLU to sign a letter defending free speech, writing that in an attempt to silence its critics, our government has resorted to threatening the livelihoods of journalists, talk show hosts, artists, creatives, and entertainers across the board, saying this runs counter to the values our nation was built upon and our Constitution guarantees, saying we know this moment is bigger than us and our industry. And the people you had attached to that included Tom Hanks, Selena Gomez, Meryl Streep, Lin-Manuel Miranda, and hundreds more. Also on the political and slightly entertainment side of things, you had local outlets in New York reporting that Democratic mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani hold a planned town hall with WABC, and you had Mamdani saying ABC pulled Jimmy Kimmel off the air after the FCC sought to pressure them. The message that it sends to each and every American across this country is a message the First Amendment is no longer a right that can be counted on, but rather it is government which will determine what should and should not be discussed and what can and cannot be spoken. We cannot normalize these kinds of acts nor offenses. These must be the basis upon which we act. Then I've got more news for you in just a second, but first let me say I am speaking to you here, you with that passion project, that side hustle, that list of business ideas that's just rotting away in your notes app. I want you to make today the day that you commit to making that thing real. Because I totally did it. I procrastinated on building my book club website forever. And thanks to today's sponsor, Squarespace, to the Franco Book Club, it went from someday to launch in under an hour. I mean, it just could not be easier to make a site for people to go through or to start selling content, courses, physical or digital products, whatever you've got in mind. You want to charge a one-time fee, offer a subscription, both done and done. And it's got beautiful templates that make it look like it's hired a designer in their fluid engine editor. It lets you drop, drag, customize, no coding, no stress, no excuses. My team even uses Squarespace for our daily dip newsletter where tens of thousands of y'all get your PDS fix in your inbox every weekday. All made easy. News, polls, giveaways, PDS show notes, all run through Squarespace. And like clockwork, if Daily Dip issue went out today and your project vision, it could be next. So hey, take that first step today with a free trial at squarespace.com/Phil or scan that QR code. It's today's launch day. When it's ready to go live, just use code Phil to get 10% off and let them know we sent you. But then next up in the news from that, we should talk about TikTok. Because Trump, he was talking about the deal to get U.S. ownership of the app, and apparently the Fox Corporation's involved.
I hate to tell you this, but a man named Lachlan is involved. You know who Lachlan is? Such a very unusual name, Lachlan Murdoch.
Mr. Murdoch.
I believe, and you call him that, and Rupert is probably going to be in the group. I think they're going to be in the group. a couple of others really great people, very prominent people. And they're also American patriots, you know, they love this country, so I think they're going to do a really good job.
President Trump talking about the bosses of the Fox media empire, and if the Murdochs were to invest in the app, reports say that they would do that via the Fox Corporation, not individually. There were also some big things. Trump didn't say how much the deal was worth or the extent of their role. Or because Trump, he also noted that one of his supporters, Oracle founder Larry Ellison, as well as Michael Dell, the
Different
CEO of
game.
Technologies, are among the list of potential
Bye.
investors. Well, there is still just a lot that we do not know.
sorry,
Right
Kitty.
now, it looks
I
like
didn't
for
mean to bump
American
you.
users, the
Sorry,
TikTok
I didn't mean to bump you.
algorithm would run through
I didn't
Oracle.
know you were
Whereas
there.
TikTok would reportedly lease its algorithm to the group of American owners, and then Oracle would rebuild it. And when all is said and done, if all goes to plan, this U.S. group would own 80% of TikTok's U.S. business, and ByteDance's ownership will get a little less than 20%. Also, a big thing is that previous reports suggested that U.S. users would need to download a new app for this whole plan, but it seems like that might not be the case, and we can just stay right on TikTok as we know it. Now, in addition to that, you also have a number of people concerned that with these specific investors, they'd have the ability to influence content on the app. Right in that, it's got a lot of people concerned and or pissed off. Right? People noting that Elon Musk is behind what we see on X, Mark Zuckerberg's behind Facebook and Instagram, and now TikTok could have the influence of the Fox News family and Larry Ellison. But for now, that's just where we are, and we're gonna have to wait to see how things develop. But the next up in the news today, we need to talk about how this latest move from the Pentagon, it's being described as a direct assault on independent journalism, the most egregious violation of the First Amendment, and a cause for alarm for every single American by experts and advocates. Right? Because over the weekend, the Pentagon sent out a 17-page memo requiring credentialed journalists to sign a pledge promising to not report anything that hasn't been expressly approved for release. And that includes unclassified information, with the memo then threatening to remove the press pass for any journalists who don't follow the new policy. Also, the new policy restricts where journalists can go inside the Pentagon. Specifically, it designates large chunks of the building as off limits to press without an escort. And that's actually pretty notable because while many offices and meeting rooms are restricted, the press corps was previously allowed access to most of the building unattended. That apparently did not sit well with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who took to Twitter after the new policy was
That did not sit
circulated,
well
saying,
with
"The press does not
Sitwell."
run the Pentagon. The people do. The press is no longer allowed to roam the halls of a secure facility. Wear a badge and follow the rules or go home." Now, that said, this new policy, right, it's not coming out of nowhere. Hegseth's actually spent months tightening restrictions on the Pentagon press and limiting military personnel's communications with them directly. Also, the briefing room's reportedly gone dark, which is a pretty stark difference from the twice-weekly televised Q&A sessions that happened there just last year. And Hegseth's chief spokesperson and his press secretary reportedly rarely hold media briefings. But also a big thing is, despite all that, or maybe because of it, we've also seen several big leaks from the Pentagon this year. Leaks that led to a staff even briefly trying to use polygraph tests to find the leaks before being ordered to stop by the White House. But the reason that we're talking about all of this, the small and the big, is because these new rules, they're taking things to the next level, and they've even prompted alarm and outrage from experts, advocates, and even officials within the Pentagon itself. Right? And with that, you had National Press Club President Mike Balsamo saying, "If the news about our military must first be approved by the government, then the public is no longer getting independent reporting. It's getting only what officials want them to see. That should alarm every American." Right? And that was echoed by many repeatedly, with, for example, a statement from the Society of Professional Journalists saying the policy reeks of prior restraint and calling it, quote, "the most egregious violation of press freedom under the First Amendment." And you also had Seth Stern of the Free Press Foundation saying this policy, it goes against decades of legal precedent of journalists lawfully obtaining and publishing government secrets. And with that, saying that he hopes that journalists don't just capitulate, and even says that he hopes that they forgo their Pentagon access if need be, and added, agreeing not to look where the government doesn't want you to look, and by extension not to print what it doesn't want you to print, is propaganda, not journalism. And you've got no shortage of journalists and press advocates calling this an intimidation tactic and even fundamentally anti-American. And possibly maybe the best demonstration of significance.
I hope we wake up.
Wrote, if he accepts new rules, journalists would have had their press credentials canceled for reporting the Johnson administration's lies during the Vietnam War. John Hersey's groundbreaking New York.
What do you mean Johnson administration? Do you mean Nixon? Do you mean Nixon? Johnson was a walk in the park compared to Nixon. Why do you say Johnson? Just say Nixon. You know, like Trump. You're trying to say JD Vance's decisions were bad in 2020? No, motherfucker, it was Trump. It was Nixon.
Something that one would see in some of the most repressive.
Where are the guns in this fucking game? Where are they? Where are the guns? Give them to me. Guns now, hurry up.
Response to the backlash, you had a Pentagon spokesperson quick to defend the new policy, saying that the new guidelines are already in line with every other military base in the country, and adding that they are basic common sense guidelines to protect sensitive information.
Okay, where's like the center of the island right now? It's like pretty much me. Yeah, I want that bush. Nobody ever comes here when they see that everything's gone.
So nothing stops reporters. But also, as
I'll go loot this place.
Actions are actions, and right now there's not really any indication that he's going to do something about this. And so, definitely something.
Fuck no, he's not gonna do anything. No.
I'd love to know your thoughts, opinions, and reactions.
What's that?
But then
That's,
another news: 730,000 is your number of the day, because that is the number of H-1B visa holders believed to be in the U.S. right now. But when you also consider dependents, right, spouses, and kids, you're looking at a total of 1.28 to 1.3 million people in the country. And we're looking at those today because, one, employers use those visas to bring in high-skilled foreign workers, and two, Trump is looking to overhaul them. And by overhaul, I mean the fees that hire an employee through H-1B, they total a few $1,000s at most, but now companies are going to have to pay $100,000 for it. And also, an interesting thing here is that when Trump announced this change, it sparked confusion, panic, and chaos. Because Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick seemed to suggest that the new fee would apply not just to new visa holders, but also to current ones, and that it would end up totaling $600,000 per worker.
Renewals, first times, the company needs to decide, do they want, is that person valuable enough? It's annual, and it's for total, it can be a total of 6 years. So $100,000 a year.
With that, announcing of changes that take effect with that midnight Saturday
What the
meeting,
fuck?
Whoa! Had a little more than a day to prepare for these huge fees on thousands of their workers.
I don't know. I don't want to do that anymore.
Amazon and Microsoft.
Just get me out of here.
Pulling the file, visa holders
at least
country and urging those already abroad to fly back as soon as possible. But then on Saturday, you had the White House clarifying that the $100,000 fee would only apply to new applicants and not renewals or current visa holders, and that it's a one-time fee. But still,
yeah, I mean, it's good. It's good.
To disrupt several sectors of the U.S. economy. And really, the only question is whether the disruption is going to be good or bad. Right now, on the Trump side, you have supporters claiming that corporations have abused the H-1B visa to import.
Okay, we know our first target.
They could have hired native citizens, effectively taking jobs away from Americans. And with that, you had the White House citing data that appears to show increased unemployment among computer science and computer engineering majors, for example. Then with that, you have critics countering that the economy is not a zero-sum game, and that visa holders and their families, they contribute roughly $86 billion to the U.S. every year. That's in addition to them providing some of the world's top talent, not just to tech companies, but also to Wall Street, universities, and the medical industry, right? With executives from India now running Google, Microsoft, and IBM, and Indian doctors making up nearly 6% of U.S. physicians. So people critical of this, saying that it could weaken American competitiveness in tech and AI, as well as cripple our healthcare system. And possibly, giving an idea to how steep the cost is to businesses, the median salary for a new H-1B worker in 2023 was $94,000, right? So that means most of these people, they don't even make as much as a $100,000 fee. So that, it's why you have many experts saying that really only the biggest companies out there are going to be able to afford to pay or to extract an exemption from the White House, right? Arguing that it leaves the startups just shit out of luck with, for example, venture capitalist Alex Patrikoff telling the New York Times, there is not a single company that I have invested in the last 10 years that could afford to pay this, right? And so instead of paying it, you have experts saying that they might end up just opting for contracting for delivery and gig workers. All of which is why the U.S. Chamber of Commerce reacted to the news with, we're concerned about the impact of employees and their families and employers. But if you ask Trump and Lutnick about this, corporate America is just thrilled about having to pay more for foreign workers.
All of the big companies are on board. We've spoken to them about the gold card.
They love it. They love it. They really love it. They need it.
They
Also,
love it. They love it. They need it.
Gold card is finally here. All you got to do is just
They
write
just
a
need
check
it.
for $1 million to the U.S. Treasury, and you can legally live and work in the United States. Or if you're sponsored by a corporation, your employer can pay $2 million. Then with all that, what I will say, one place that is definitely not in love with the whole H-1B change is India, where over 70% of H-1B visa holders originate from. Right, the H-1B program, it's helped lift up the new middle class in India, and it's given many talented Indians a pathway forward for a better future for their families. So you actually have the Indian government warning that the disruptions done to families by this new policy.
He was shooting at me.
Humanitarian concern, and saying that it could damage the people-to-people diplomacy achieved over the past 3 decades. But then, of course, that's not where the situation ends, because with so much of what Trump's trying to do with policy nowadays, you can expect that this is going to get challenged in courts. And in fact, you already have the American Immigration Lawyers Association leading the charge and partnering with other groups scouting for plaintiffs and seeking a temporary block on the policy. But then finally, today, I want to end with, I guess, a little bit of self-promo, and then one more thing. The little bit of promo is if you haven't snagged yourself something from googleclash.com in a bit, no better time, whether it be Strive for Better Times, Don't Let Dread In, or Move with Serenity, or classic bestsellers like Emotionally Exhausted, Full of Microplastics and Existential Dread, and One Day We'll All Be Skeletons. Of course, all available at beautifulclash.com. Then the final thing that I wanted to share today is, I spoke with Ed Elson from Prop G Markets on my podcast In Good Faith. Something that he hit on, and it felt like he really wanted to get out there, was the importance of billionaires being taxed on their wealth, because they literally can't spend the money anywhere. And of course, you can get the full hour-long thing on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Links in the description down below. But Here's a taste.
Trickle-down economic story was one of the greatest lies ever told to America. And I don't think it was that insidious. I think that the theory was a nice theory. We can pay less in taxes, and it actually helps us return. It means that
The
people
fuck was
spend more.
this?
It means that
Whoa.
people are participating in the economy. It was an amazing story because it basically told us we can have our cake and we can eat it too. And I don't decry us for believing the story. What I do decry us for is the fact that after we saw how the story did not work, how it wasn't true, we decided let's keep doing it. And let's keep telling the story. Let's keep talking Reaganomics. Let's keep talking about trickle down theory. And
I think I like that
very plain
more,
and very
but not
obvious
much
for everyone
more.
to see. It does not.
This thing's a
work.
lot more deadly.
And the way that we can see this playing out is, again,
Megazord. What's
you
a
gotta go back to the
Megazord?
inequality problem. What happens when rich people, really rich people, get really, really rich?
They fuck over everybody else in society, and we all starve to death. It's simple.
Houses, on going out to eat food, on restaurants. Do they spend it on getting their car washed? No, you can't spend billions of dollars.
No.
They keep
No.
it. They buy stocks and they buy assets.
And they fuck us over.
And
Pieces
the
of
assets grow and
worthless,
grow and grow in price.
backstabbing, rich
And then they
pieces
just
of
sit on it,
shit.
because that's all you can do.
They
I mean,
sit on
you
it.
know,
Fiscal
$250
conservatives,
billion.
Republicans,
You cannot spend that
right
much.
wingers,
You
they
cannot
sit on money
into the
and
economy.
choke us to fucking
This is not
death with
trickle-down.
poverty.
Billions and
Fuck
billions of
them.
dollars in the
They've
housing
always
market.
wanted to kill
There's
us.
one thing you can do with that amount of money, and that is sit on it.
I'm
And
very
then
aware of it.
give it to your
Felt
children.
it all my life.
That's all you can do with this money. So essentially what's happened
I
is
won't play
all
their
of the money
games.
that we have decided to give
I
to
don't
rich
care
people
about their
because we said we're gonna
paychecks or
cut
their
down on
bosses
taxes,
or
and we're gonna
gods
make
and clods
the
or
environment
gods and
extremely
managers.
favorable
I don't
to
care about
the
them.
very, very top 1%. We basically said to them, you know, just
The fuck was that?
enjoy
Where
the
was that?
cash, and we're gonna have it locked up there in your bank account. Goldman
Thank
Sachs.
you.
We're gonna have it locked up in your. I mean, look at Ken Griffin, who spent $1 billion on a house. You know, spent $1 billion on a house. It's
That's pretty. I
ridiculous.
didn't know that.
Ken Griffin? Oh my god.
He went
Didn't know you could do that.
in Florida. It's crazy, and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
So
it's
all of that
fucking
money is
stupid.
locked up in
Fuck
there,
those
and it's
assholes.
not being reinvested into the economy, and that, by the way, is why GDP in the past 50 years.
Yeah,
has
fuck
grown
these guys.
3
I don't like
times
them at
faster
all.
Than wages in America.
Well, it brings us to the end of this video. You got even more just a click away because I've just been doing more and more podcasts. I got a brand new podcast with Ed Ellison from Prop G Markets over here. And I also just did this new podcast with Mr. B. You can click or tap to watch either of those, but also I've got links in the description or Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the YouTube version so you can get filled in wherever you like. No matter what you do, let me just say thank you for watching. I love your faces, and of course, I'll see you right back here tomorrow.
Oh, how convenient that is. How convenient that is. I'll take that instead, yeah. I'm gonna shoot this guy first, though. Where is he? There he is. God damn it, you're annoying. Eight down, 6 up. Ooh, look at that. What are you talking about? Before I can even swing, he killed me. Shot 4 times before I could swing. What was that? Okay, well, 10 down, and I made it to 6 or something. 6th place? I don't know. Oh, damn it. What was that, man? Before I could do anything, I should have just left. I should have just bounced. I should have bounced out of there. I'm fucking dumb. I thought I could kill him. I think I landed the same time I was, like, done with it. Fucking asshole. Fucking cocksucking asshole. Making the game worse. Come on, man. Give me a second to fucking fight you. Worthless piece of shit cocksucker. Anyways. I'm gonna go back to fucking YouTube.
So the last video I uploaded on this channel was a pretty wholesome story. It was a nice story about a YouTuber that actually came back from the abyss. So to counterbalance that, I'm going to talk about one of the most darkest stories I have ever seen. So I'm pretty sure you know the music artist David. If you haven't actually heard of the name, you've definitely heard of his music. So for context here, on the 3rd of September, there was a Tesla that was towed from the Hollywood Hills. And then 5 days later, on the 8th of September, the police reported a foul-smelling odor coming from the car. Now, you'd hope inside of that car there was just some gone-off Uber Eats or something. But when they investigated, they actually found a inside the trunk. But it wasn't even a whole body. It was basically remains. All they found was the remnants of a head and a torso.
And found posed remains
wrapped in a garbage bag inside the car. Now, at the time, there was so little to work with, medical examiners really couldn't ID the body, but they did eventually put together some information. Whoever this person was, they're around 5'2", 70 pounds. They had wavy black hair and a tattoo on their right index finger. Now, keep that last bit of information in mind because that is very important going ahead. Now, this Tesla was found in a tow yard, so it wasn't really sure who actually owned it in the first place. But when police checked the ID of the car, they found out it was owned by the music artist David. Now, again, if you haven't heard that name, you've definitely heard some of his songs, mostly because, like a lot of music, it went incredibly viral on short-form content for a time, like IG Reels, TikTok. There was two big songs. One of them was called Here With Me. The other one was called Romantic Homicide, which the second song is definitely a very rough title considering what we're going to be talking about. And his music went viral in different communities. Like, for example, his song Feel It was actually featured in the second season of Invincible. Now, at the time, David was actually on tour, so he couldn't actually entirely be involved in the investigation, but a spokesperson told NBC News that apparently he had been informed on what happened. And although he was still doing his tour, he was fully cooperating with authorities. Now, David had a very loyal fan base, so obviously when they heard that he was cooperating with authorities, they immediately believed he was innocent, or even worse, someone could have actually framed him. There was actually a Reddit thread that was posted like a week ago now, and you've got people in the comments that are like, you know, just LARPing as Ralph Cifaretto and Tony Soprano.
Ralph's a little weird about women. I mean, he keep one to check.
You also, which no matter the severity of any situation, people were making constant memes about it. And you even had big name streamers weighing in saying that this guy's innocent. Like, for example, FaZe Jason, who told Ludwig when he was live that not only does he think David is not guilty, but he's also going to be performing with him.
He didn't do it.
He's not a murderer?
No.
Thank God, bro, because I was still going to listen to his music. I was just worried that I'd be if I did.
He literally performed the next day. If he was a suspect, the police would have been after him. He's not a suspect.
He's not just escaping the police clutches?
No. And I'm going to perform.
No.
We're going to perform. Me and David.
So let me get this straight. You support homophobic people and murderers. Got it.
Now, a quick update on FaZe Jason. Recently, he actually retracted his statement saying that David is not fully innocent.
First off, I want to retract my statement. Obviously, the other day, I was defending David before all the new evidence came out. I do not condone anything that David has done or is doing.
Now, at this point, David, no stress. He really doesn't seem to care. Continuing his tour, there's even clips of him handing out labubus. Now, there has been a huge update on this case, and it's really flipped everyone's perspective of David. Now, the body in David's car was identified as Celeste.
Money makes it
Rivas,
okay.
a 15-year-old girl.
Money makes the world go round. Check it down, you stupid clown. Money makes the world go round, then you're out on your ass.
That was until they found her body decomposing in the back of David's car. Now, at the minute, the cause of death hasn't been released, but they are actually considering her death as homicide, with no clear leads on any kind of suspect or motive. And the sad thing is, the only way they were actually able to identify the body is because the mother of Celeste was actually able to identify her daughter because of that tattoo I mentioned earlier on her index finger. Now, obviously, this is like a horrific situation, you know, finding out that your daughter died through police. And on top of that as well, like I said earlier, she was missing for 17 months. But one thing people really quickly pointed out is the connection between David and Celeste, because they actually had a matching tattoo. You can see here, it just reads like shush. I mean, this could be a matching tattoo, or maybe Celeste was a fan and possibly copied the tattoo. I do also want to say, by the way, this like shh tattoo, it is actually pretty common. You've got people like Rihanna, Lindsay Lohan, Lily Allen, Neymar, just to name a few celebrities. They also all have this same tattoo. It is actually common.
I shot him! He's got 10 health! 10 health! I shot him with a shotgun! Point blank! You suck dick, developer! You suck dick! I shot him with a shotgun point blank! What are you talking about? You didn't do any damage, you fucking worthless piece of shit engine! Didn't calculate! You suck dick, piece of shit epic developer! Fuck you!
Internet absolutely exploded. Now,
I shot that guy with an auto shotgun. Point blank. You should have been 70, 100 damage. But because Epic's involved, it equals retard and 0.
It's the song he made called Romantic Homicide. Now, if
This
you
guy's
look
not
at
that
these lyrics on
good.
screen, because funnily enough, if I
He did
played
not
the
kill
lyrics out
7
loud,
people
David's
in 5
licensing company
seconds.
would claim
What are
the
you
video.
talking
But
about?
if you look at these lyrics, in hindsight, at the best, horrendous coincidence. And also, this YouTube video of the song was released on the 7th of
Why
September.
did you put me up against that
2022.
piece of
And
shit,
currently
you
there are
fucking worthless cocksucker developer? Why?
missing persons posters floating around the internet, basically saying that Celeste's birthday was also
Goddamn
September
worthless
the 7th.
piece of
Now,
shit
I tried to look into this a
cocksucker
bit
developer.
deeper, and I can't actually find a concrete, reliable source that was her birthday. And I just want to say, no, XQC linking the dates up on stream, I wouldn't say is a
Fuck
reliable
was
source.
that, man? I shot that
right.
guy with a shotgun.
It's actually
Point
the
blank
most-
right in his chest. He
Every
put his
single
chest
line
in my face.
Guys, you
Do the
gotta
damage
tell the audience,
calculations,
just
shithead.
for this
Should we
very
look at it in
one person,
rerun? Should I look at it in replay?
365,
Fucking worthless
We're
piece
talking
of
about
shit.
133,000.
Well, I've also seen fact checkers online saying that this is completely false and her birthday wasn't actually revealed to the public. And actually, that song, Romantic Homicide, was released on another platform called DistroKid in July 2022. Now, that wasn't the only theory people had. Believe me, there are so many more. Like one music video he released called One More Dance. There's actually a scene where David's body is lifted and put into the trunk of a car, which, again, people pointed out online is an eerie connection between how Celeste's remains were found. And for the music videos of Here With Me and Sleep Well, people have tried to make a connection that the girls in the video are actually similar to photos of Celeste. There's also been lyrics to an unreleased song attributed to David, where he actually sings about a girl called Celeste. People have also been trying to dig through his TikTok to find more evidence there as well. There was this one TikTok with the caption, "When your card declines at therapy," and they bring out the Hello Kitty girl you met in 2021. And then information came out that Celeste apparently liked Hello Kitty quite a lot. But also, Hello Kitty girl online kind of has this theme now that it's basically a girl that treated you badly. A lot of his reposts as well, people have said, has been like quite disturbing. There was a lot of posts about obsession in love, being unstable about the person he loves, being possessive.
It's either me or nobody else in this world. I love you to death.
You know, the kind of things you would definitely see on someone's private Twitter account. But more worryingly, there were posts about harming the women he's with because of her actions with other men. Like in this video, for example, me, after hearing about her past with other boys, I'm jealous and utterly disgusted by her actions. And then the footage accompanying this is the scene from American Psycho where Patrick Bateman tries to kill a woman with a nail gun. There were also Discord messages that were posted. Again, like the source for these, my ass. I've tried to find a way to verify these. There is no way to. But apparently, these were servers that David was in. I mean, you've got one screenshot here that has a picture of David with another girl who people are assuming is Celeste. And then the person messaging David asked who the girl was, to which David called him a fed. Screenshots of David saying he loves gore. Old screenshots of David and Celeste apparently talking in a Discord server. Like, these are probably the most flimsy forms of evidence, because again, it's like you show a screenshot, you definitely need a way to actually verify it's true. Now, apparently some people actually took screen recordings of these, posted them online, and apparently invites to this server have now been closed. On top of this as well, there's been like a huge number of photos and videos that have been posted of David with a girl. Obviously, a lot of people believe this to be Celeste. And also there was this other claim as well that like after a stream, he was telling mods to delete all the VODs and the clips from that stream.
We need to delete this.
Mods, can we delete all VODs? And then as soon as the stream ends, delete the stream too?
I mean, there's even a video going around of like a teacher claiming with like photographic proof that he used to teach Celeste.
That's her in my classroom in front of this poster right here. Okay, hold up. I got another one because I got a picture on TMZ of this other kid exchanging stuff with the rapper who we alleged did this stuff. He's also in my classroom.
And how long ago?
This we all just found out yesterday. She's been missing since I taught her. So
Now, a quick update on David. From what I believe, he's still a suspect, but he's actually gone ahead and cancelled the rest of his US tour. This is definitely like a heavy topic. It's not like a funny ha-ha topic. That's kind of why I was.
It is now that the internet spun on it for 100,000 videos. It is now.
And obviously, you know, thoughts go out to
because of you.
As well, more importantly.
It is now. Because of you. I'm gonna put that in a song. The MK7 is a way better gun. I missed the MK7. I was like, wait, is that an MK7? And it is. It's an MK7. It's good. That's a good gun for me. What is a Megazord? Why does it need to block my screen? What was that? Oh god. Get me out of here. No! I didn't know he could do that. I didn't know he could do that, so I died to it. Come on, I had no idea that was a thing. Why would that be a thing? Ah, you suck. It was a player? He kills so many fucking people. What was this, man? I didn't think they could do that. Ugh. Maybe I'm done with this game for tonight. It got toxic. Not because like he was bad, it was that I didn't know. I didn't know that thing could just one-shot me. And I want to scream at the developer. But I don't want to scream at the developer. Fuck the developer. I don't want to scream at the developer. There's no reason why I should scream at the developer while they suck dick and one-shot me and waste 25 minutes of my life with no warning. And it's like, I'll just, you know, rather than be all negative or whatever, I already said what I meant or how I felt. Yeah, half of the system doesn't care about you. Ghost of Yotei's budget is likely similar to Tsushima's. I don't like any of these. Not interested. Get that off my channel. You keep recommending this. Let's listen to that.
Method acting is a system of training and practice.
I'm going to go get something to eat. I'll be right back.
Developed by a variety of dramatic artists with the goal of encouraging authentic and expressive performances through connecting with, understand the Stanislavski system. The method form of acting forces the actor to take on the character 24/7 in everything they do. That way they can better understand who they are portraying and why they are making the decisions they make. Only then can they really accurately portray their subjects, as they are really showcasing who they are. In literature based around the method form of acting, the difference between method acting and regular acting can be reduced to one singular question. Regular actors are constantly having to ask themselves, what would motivate me, the actor, to behave in the way the character does, which, it is argued, separates themselves from their roles and adds a layer of falsehood to their performance. Rather, method actors who live within their roles are asking the question, given the particular circumstances of the play, how would I behave? What would I do? How would I feel? And how would I react? Over the past couple of years, with the rise of method actors like Jared Leto using the method as a way to harass his co-workers and force the production to cater to his most insane requests, and other thespians like Robert Pattinson speaking out against the practice, the entire form of acting has come under fire. An actor should be able to portray a character without having to be the character in their personal life. But where does one draw the line? How do you play a villain without being one yourself? And why does Hollywood make so many excuses for this kind of behavior? Today, we are going to be covering the case of a man who made millions off of portraying some of cinema's most sadistic and evil characters, all the while hiding his own actions in plain sight. Welcome back to another episode of Dreading, this time brought to you by our patrons over at Patreon. Today we are going to be covering the case of Kevin Spacey and how he has been plagued with allegations of inappropriate and criminal behavior since the start of his career. This case was requested by over 35 subscribers of this channel. But if there is a topic or case you would like to see me cover next, please leave it in the comments down below. If you want the submission to stay private, feel free to send me an email at the email in the description down below. This video, like so many others of ours, has been copyright claimed and demonetized, meaning that all the ad revenue from this video goes to a third party. Lately, some of our videos have been blocked and privatized by the platform, though luckily they have been able to go back up. If you want to have full access to every single one of my videos, please consider checking out my Patreon, which is linked below. All of my videos are available there in their original forms, and there will always be copies of my videos available there to be watched should anything happen to this channel. To be precise, if YouTube were to completely demonetize this channel, I would still venture to make content. But if you wanted to support my endeavor, Patreon is available to you. With all of that said, let us begin. Kevin Spacey is a celebrity who prided himself on maintaining a certain amount of secrecy around his life. Almost every interview and article written about his life and career, a great deal of focus was given to why his personal life was so hidden and shadowy, to which Kevin would always respond that he wanted to be known for his acting only, and that his real life was his own. Many of his fans and colleagues appreciated this, and respected the actor for it. It isn't hard to find comments about how Kevin's attitude and temperament about his acting is like that of an older Hollywood star, and how his dedication to his craft, and not public spectacle, was something to be aspired to. But much like an old Hollywood star, Kevin used his secrecy to hide some of his more heinous behavior. With that in mind, there is very little information about Kevin's early life, as only two sources who have ever spoke about it were Kevin, who only gave vague information, and his brother, Randall, who painted a drastically different picture. Kevin Spacey was born Kevin Spacey Fowler, July 26, 1959. He was born to parents Kathleen and Thomas Fowler, and the home, according to Kevin, was nothing if not normal. Spacey was the youngest of three kids, Julie and Randall Fowler, and was the baby of the group. Kevin would state that his family, and most notably his dad, was very normal and middle class, and his childhood, with the exception of a few tales given during interviews about capers he got into, was entirely unnoteworthy.
His brother, Randall Fowler, would deeply disagree with his brother's summation of their early lives, and in 2004 stated that their father was a wildly abusive man who assaulted both of them physically and sexually. He went further to state that his father was a Nazi and collected World War II paraphernalia.
That's
and at
Kevin
times
Spacey's brother.
used it to beat them. Randall went on to claim that his father cut his mustache to honor Adolf Hitler and would often go on rants during dinner about the state of the world. In an interview Randall gave with the Daily Mail, he would label his father a Nazi child rapist who hated Jews and brutalized the entire family, leaving every member with irreparable mental and physical wounds. For his part, Randall stated that he refused to have his own children for fear that he would pass down.
You know, it's weird. Isn't that the plot line to American Beauty?
Any of the abuse or torture his father gave to him, and believed that his childhood was the reason that his marriages and relationships continued to fall apart. His father isolated the family, banning kids from having any friends over or going out on their own. Their house served as a prison for the kids, and Randall alleged that in order to deal with the various abuse he was put through, he wrapped himself in an emotional bubble, hiding his true self from the world. He believed that his brother turned to acting the same way he had turned to impersonations, as fantasizing about being another person was the only real way to cope with what was going on. For his part, his sister Julie has never spoken in defense of her brother or their family, but is reported to have a healthy relationship with Kevin, as she stated he loves her kids and being an uncle. Regardless of which assessment of the Fowler household is correct, remains to be seen, but Kevin would leave the house rather early, as when he was in the 10th grade, he was sent to a military academy after burning down his sister's treehouse. His stint in the academy only lasted 2 years, though he was expelled in the 11th grade after throwing a tire at a classmate during a boxing match. After being expelled, Spacey was enrolled in Chatsworth High School, where he would begin to pursue acting after his school counselor would recommend he look into healthy outlets for his energy and need for attention. For Kevin, it seemed to be exactly what he needed, and he took to the stage like a fish to water. Many of the people around him remarked on the notable change to his personality, as it seemed that he had found what drove him. He later graduated co-valedictorian in 1977, and after began to pursue a career on stage in whatever form he could. At first, Kevin was interested in stand-up as it required less auditioning and rejection. He would go to bowling alley talent contests and comedy clubs during open mic nights and do impressions to middling success. Some of the comedians around him, but he was green and needed more time to learn the craft. However, Spacey didn't know if comedy was the route he really wanted to pursue. After some encouragement from his friend from school, Val Kilmer, Kevin applied to Juilliard and was one of the 28 students accepted into the class in 1979. In an essay about his former teacher, Marianne Seldes, Kevin recalled his short tenure at the prestigious school fondly, stating that she was the first person in his life who truly believed in his talents and abilities. He also referenced the fact that he had left the school after only 2 years of classes and might have been kicked out, though that was never directly reported. Shortly after leaving Juilliard, Kevin would be on the road to becoming the star the world would come to know him as, and go on to create a reputation for trying to take advantage of those unfortunate enough to get in his line of vision. The following portion of this video is going to include the statements of multiple victims who have come forward against Kevin, and some are graphic in nature. If you are at all sensitive towards discussions of sexual assault, it might
I wondered what it was.
It'd be beneficial for you to leave the video now to protect your mental well-being. Please look after yourself, and do not consume the rest of the video if you have even an inkling that this might be hurtful to you. One common misconception about Kevin Spacey and the allegations against him is that people only came forward during the Me Too movement in 2017, and that prior to that, no allegations had been made. However, that is patently false, as for as long as Kevin had been working, he had had men and women allege that he had been inappropriate with them, to the point that Netflix had to put a sexual misconduct clause in his contract, and Family Guy had made a joke out of it years prior.
$10, $5, $8 and I'll do it. Fine. Help! I've escaped from Kevin Spacey's basement! Help me!
Much like with Harvey Weinstein, Matt Lauer, and Bill Cosby, Kevin Spacey's repeated sexual advances and assaults were well known in the industry and considered an open secret. To properly showcase the breadth of some of the claims and how well known they were to people in the industry, as we discuss Kevin's career, we will intersperse the alleged offenses as they occurred. In 1981, Kevin made his professional stage debut as a spear carrier in the New York Shakespeare Festival. He had various small roles prior, which he would describe in an article for the New Yorker as embarrassing and pathetically bad. But from this small role, he had gotten his foot in the door. The next year, 1982, Kevin made his Broadway debut as Oswald in Ghosts by Henrik Ibsen. Following that, he portrayed Valente in Molière's The Misanthrope in 1983. At the same time, Kevin began a year-long sexual relationship with a 14-year-old boy he had met 2 years prior when he was just 12. According to the anonymous victim who came forward in 2017, but had spoken publicly about the assaults beginning in 1990, he first met Kevin in 1981, when Kevin was a guest teacher at an acting class he was enrolled in. At the time of their original meeting,
a guest teacher at the age of 14?
Kevin was 22, and when he began seeing the minor, he was 24 and on Broadway. According to the anonymous victim's statements, Kevin gave the boy his number after they ran into each other in Central Park, and when he called him the next day, Kevin declared he was in love with him and had been since he was 12, but had stayed away due to age. Kevin love-bombed the child and told him that there were producers he knew that were interested in the 14-year-old boy for a number of roles. This, of course, was not true, and just a tactic that Kevin used to groom the child. The victim stated that they continued to see each other for a year, in which they repeatedly had sex, but the last...
So they were just dating, but the kid was young? Well, dating, I mean, you mean raping a child, I guess? But I mean, like, if it's consensual for a year, is that rape? If the kid who's 14 is with a 22-year-old dude and consensually sleeps with him for like a year, is that rape?
Last time he saw Kevin, he had been physically...
I don't like this story. I'm just going to get off it right there. I heard all I needed to hear. I don't want to ask questions about it. I think it's
Your first 20 hours in an MMO are crucial. According to ChatGPT, most people who try an MMO will play it for 10 to 20 hours before deciding to quit. Now, I know ChatGPT isn't the most accurate at times, but this one, I'd say it's pretty close. Welcome to my very first iRate episode where I play an MMO for 24 hours, then rate it strictly based off of those first 24 hours, following a rating criteria categorized into 5 areas: gameplay, combat, UX, systems, content, and streamlining. My goal with this series is to deliver a final rating following a more systematic approach. Now, obviously, this is still very subjective, but at least there's some structure here following a set of rules. Those rules being that each category will be graded based off of the good old-fashioned American school system, because, of course, our educational system here in America is, of course, the best. And yes, I am American. A breakdown of the grades and ground rules should be pulled up right now on the screen, so be sure to pause the video and read them if you'd like. I'm not going to bother making this video any longer by reading them out. At the very end, we'll tally it up and give it a final grade. And the first game to kick off this series is none other than New World. Before we begin though, if you appreciate the content, all I ask is to like and hit the subscribe button. It would mean the absolute world to me, and believe it or not, it does make a big difference. Also, I'm streaming on Twitch daily, which is my main platform, so it would really be great to see you guys over there so I can interact with you guys directly. Okay, so we're going to be going over the new player experience, but here's quick general background info on the game to catch you up to speed. New World is an action combat MMO that was designed with the intent to produce a more Souls-like combat system in an open world sandbox that has a big emphasis on gathering and crafting.
That's
this is a weapon-based class system allowing you to wield 2 weapons of your choice and offers pretty standard PvE instance dungeon and raid content, while also offering a variety of instanced and open world PvP content as well. As of now, the general opinion from the New World community is that the game has come a very long way and has improved significantly since its launch, which was very much bug-ridden and many would consider was a complete disaster. Now in 2025, not only has the new player experience supposedly improved significantly, but the game overall is said to be much more polished and improved compared to the earlier days. The drawback or major downside, however, is that the current endgame is lacking and kind of boring unless you love PvP and you're content with just queuing into PvP games all day. Which is why the community is really excited for the upcoming Season 10, likely being launched with a new expansion this October. This expansion is looking to address a lot of the current endgame issues by offering a new zone, new PvE content, gear progression system overhauls, PvP content, really the works. General vibe is pretty positive within the New World community, and the numbers show the game is already starting to gain some traction. A 13% increase in players in July, followed by a 40
to 13,000. To 13,000 players.
percent increase in August, hitting over 13,000. Put things into perspective, August last year, the player base was at an all-time low at 5,000 concurrent right before their expansion dropped. Community is pretty positive. The numbers are showing a possible comeback in the making, both pretty good signs. So I had to see for myself. Like a lot of you guys, I never actually experienced New World's launch shit show. Outside of maybe an hour during a really old beta test, I never really played the game. This allowed me to judge the game even more for what it is now and not influenced by what it was. So let's start our first section, the gameplay. It'd be really tough for me to give the gameplay anything under a B+. The overall gameplay feel in New World is just plain and simply good. Everything from the sound to the movement. The movement feels and looks really polished, and they absolutely nailed the inertia, which is generally something that's really hard to do, as it usually ends up feeling less responsive, sluggish, and just not snappy in MMOs. When it comes to the world, it felt pretty immersive and felt good to interact with. Sure, there are some minor bugs you'll come across, but nothing that gives you the impression that the game is broken. It feels quite the opposite, in fact. Despite the game being open world, however, there was something about it that felt a bit restricted. It's hard to describe feeling, but I do feel the world felt pretty solid to be in, but it didn't feel like a huge world I was in. It felt more like a large region, if that makes sense. Difficulty is another thing I felt like they did a pretty good job on in the early game. The game wasn't overly difficult, but also wasn't that easy. It wasn't brain dead simple, but not overly difficult and complex. As someone who tends to skip dialogue, I had no issues completing all the tasks. I felt they struck a solid balance for new players coming in, and the combat, which we'll talk about next, really complemented this well. While the questing and leveling experience was solid, can't say that it blew me away. For me, to give a perfect grade on this, I have to really get lost in the process to the point where I don't even realize how much I've leveled. In New World, I still was very much aware of my level, hoping to hit the cap sooner than later. But it didn't really feel like a bad grind, so overall, not a perfect grade, but certainly a high one. Combat in New World sparks huge debate, so I want to be clear here in saying that when I grade this, I'm grading it for what it is. I'm not going to give it a shitty grade because I personally happen to hate slow combat, for example, which I don't, by the way. With that said, I believe New World was the very first MMORPG that tried to deliver a Souls-like combat system, and
it is
what it is, at least in its current state, they delivered. It's pretty good. It is absolutely the best Souls-like combat system in our genre.
Yep.
My grade for the combat would be
better than
between
Souls.
an A- and a B+.
He's not
Since I
dumb.
can only choose one, I'm gonna go with an A-. I really appreciate the fact that New World's combat really stands out as its own thing, much like BDO does with faster paced combat. Not the biggest fan of weapon swapping games, but New World did a very good job delivering a very easy to understand combat system that's even easier for beginners to get into and enjoy, while still providing a high skill ceiling, rewarding experience for the more skilled players. Simple, yet has a lot of depth when it comes to player skill. I completely disagree with the notion that the combat is brain dead and easy. It's absolutely easy to learn, but I can clearly tell this is a game where the skill gap between a decent player versus a top player is going to be a big one, despite its seemingly simple design. From a more mechanical and technical perspective, abilities feel great to land, and despite not having some crazy sound or animations to the abilities, they feel very impactful when you land them. From the 3 abilities per weapon, light attack, heavy attack, dodge, and blocks, I can totally see where the depth comes from, but even still, I feel 1 or 2 more abilities would really enhance the combat even more while preserving the simplicity and importance of basic and heavy attacking. The other area of deficiency is POV. I feel the game needs to give players a little bit more cushion when it comes to the vertical axis POV. It felt frustrating at times being forced to lower my camera to aim skill shots with my character so close to the crosshairs when zoomed out. I can't say I would give this a perfect A+ rating, but it would be hard to give it anything under an A because I genuinely do believe they delivered a great product for what it is. And what it is the standard for slower Souls-like action combat in MMOs. When it comes to the UX, or the user experience, this one's a bit tricky to rate because it's very clearly intended to cater to console or controller users. This almost always comes at the expense of the PC user experience. Considering the controller-friendly UX, I think New World is pretty good for what it is, but as someone looking at this from the perspective of a PC player, I can't give the UX more than a C
I think I stole this guy's
Menus and
site.
interactions you have with the UI does feel polished. I appreciate the animations and sound. Generally, the controller-focused UX almost always feels more restrictive and clunky to use. With New World, not so much. Also, the way they laid out information, for the most part, not overly confusing and pretty easy to understand. However, the restrictions that a controller-focused UX comes with prevents me from giving this any higher of a rating. I want to be able to move my skill bar around. I want to be able to go through my inventory without a huge menu appearing. I want to be able to simply drag and drop rather than click through a menu to equip. Quality of life could also be better with some of the menus. For example, allocating stat points.
Their
really
auction house is
suck,
terrible.
Considering I have to respec everything, then manually add hundreds of points. Like, why? Add a button that allows me to input a number of stat points, or at the very least, multiples of 10. Also, the lack of a mini map, I'm just personally not a big fan of. The amount of times I had to open up a map just to see if I was going in the right direction just got really old after a while. Despite it being pretty good for the console controller theme, the UX, it's mediocre at best for a PC-focused player because of the restrictions, again, it comes along with. Does it feel polished? Sure. Convenient and functionally great to use? No. Again, for the PC user. Next, we have the systems. The systems New World offers in your first 24 hours, overall, I would give a B+ grade to. The biggest carry in this department is the life skill and crafting systems. I absolutely love these types of systems in games. Being able to interact with so many different objects in the world not only makes the game feel more immersive, but it also gives value to so many different things. The weapon skill system is pretty straightforward. Pick your strengths and weaknesses type of system while leveling them up by simply using them to unlock more skills. The leveling speed was very reasonable, wasn't too fast or too slow for a new player, with leveling hotspots that you can discover, which allows you to level weapons up really quickly in case you want to swap weapons. This allows new players the ability to change weapons if they aren't really feeling the initial weapon they chose. The stat point system I thought was solidly done as well, giving you even more variety within the builds you choose. I really liked how simple yet effective this package was. When it comes to the gear, I began to learn about person artifacts, which are essentially just traits that your gear comes with. I thought the system of mixing these perks and looking for the right ones for your build was pretty well done and easy to understand as a new player. You can feel the difference with some of these perks. I can't really judge the endgame gear upgrading system considering my journey consisted of mainly just buying gear from the auction house or obtaining upgrades via the quest line as I was leveling. As a new player, I feel the way they designed the gear acquisition through leveling was very well done, as you gained a sense of gear progression through questing, which in turn also made the questing experience feel more rewarding. However, I don't think I really got much guidance after hitting level cap. I pretty much relied on my chat to help me transition from questing to endgame gear. The only thing preventing me from giving this section an A grade is because of this. I was able to hit level cap within the allotted time, and if I have to rely on a third party for information, I can't give it a high grade. If I were to grade this section based off of everything pre-level cap, I would give it a solid A. When it comes to the overall content within the first 24 hours, I'd have to give New World a C+ or B-, leaning towards a C+. I'd imagine the leveling experience is vastly different now than it was at launch, but now you're incentivized to just go through the MSQ or the main story quest. Go through the MSQ to level, to get gear, to unlock zones, and new content. The quests themselves weren't too bad. They were the usual go talk to this NPC, go to this zone, and kill these things type of experience, but the travel distance between some of these points did feel a bit on the longer side, but it wasn't too bad. Some of the instances and fights you experience in the MSQ are done quite well and are fairly challenging. I remember thinking a hardcore leveling playthrough in New World could go pretty hard. There are also lower level dungeons or expeditions you can go on for some good experience. They weren't anything
I got
special.
to cap.
I didn't really complete them thinking
They wouldn't give me the
"Damn,
achievement
that
because I
was
wasn't paying for the game. And that's an example of who you're dealing with.
fun. I actually had a pretty good time experiencing the leveling content for the most part, but I can't give this a higher grade because at the end of the day, it was pretty generic. It was really good for being generic, but still generic. I feel like for me, more of the fun came from the combat and difficulty rather than the content design, which is what I'm ultimately rating here. New World, I felt, did a pretty good overall job streamlining the experience for me as a new player early on. It started to become convoluted as I approached the end game, but early on, everything was pretty straightforward. Overall, I'll give New World a B grade for its early game streamlining, but I'm certain I would give it a lower grade if this grade included the transition to endgame. The biggest overwhelming experience or convoluted experience I had was with the map. There's a lot of information on that thing, and I'm sure it's super easy to read for a veteran player, but as a new player, I found myself lost often looking at it, trying to figure some things out. Controller-friendly UX didn't help either. Generally, when starting an MMO, most players will immediately rely on an MSQ to follow, almost as if it's a North Star. New World does a good job essentially tying all of your early character progression to this system, allowing players to ease into the game a bit better. This is a bit of a double-edged sword though, because it may set up for a very pleasant early experience, but it can also lead to the player being lost or overwhelmed when they do have to ultimately...
I gotta say, guys, so if you see on my right side here on the D scanner, there is a Thrasher stealthed up at my gate. They're like pissed at me or something, I don't know. And I have no idea. I don't know if they're a Caldari. I don't know if they're this guy, Lydrin. I went in and they were gone when I got there because they jumped before I fucking came in. And I really don't know. And I don't know if this guy knows if I'm Lydrin or not. I don't know what's going on. And so, I don't know. Maybe they're organized and they're about to jump me. But the problem is I'm Caldari. I don't, if I stepped on someone, I didn't mean to.
Learn.
I'm drunk and I'm tired and I just came in. Like before I didn't even think to descan before I just jumped the belt. And now I have no idea. Like when I came in, there was nobody there. So now it's a mystery to me. I don't know who was there. Like I wasn't really watching the descan until it was too late. Now there's this Thrasher here, and I can kill a Thrasher if it's Lydrin. This guy's a member of Templar, Onamon Fleet, State Protectorate, State Protectorate, State Protectorate. So there is 3 guys here, but Onamon Fleet guy, he's not involved with us. Templar is probably not involved with us. Neither is Tai Tai. So there's like 4 of us here involved. One of these Caldari is in a Thrasher, and they're like sitting here outside my gate. And I don't really understand that. Maybe they're watching my stream and gathering information. If that's the case, I'm trying to talk out loud to them that if I stepped on you and stole your site, I didn't mean to. I just came in. I didn't think to descan. I just came in. I don't care about losing this Tristan. So I just came in. I'm sorry. My thing is not paying attention right now. Oops. I don't want to pay attention. I'm going to bed here soon.
Systems of the game. You can tell early on there's a lot of things in the game, but you're not really overwhelmed by it because you just rely on your MSQ pretty much to guide you through. Overall, after averaging everything, I rate New World a B or a 3.1.
Yeah, I think that's about fair. That's about where I land too. I would say it's like a 78, about as high. It's like a B plus for me. It's like a 78. And that's good in the modern era because it's like most of these fucking games are dog.
Yay or grade point average for the first 24-hour experience. Overall, a pretty solid game that actually surprised me. Going into New World, I always heard so many negative things about the game, while the New World Andes would continue to defend their game, blaming the bad rep on its history. For sure, this game, for me, was carried by its gameplay and combat. Would argue 2 of the most important elements to a game, certainly within the first 24 hours. Depending on how you look at it, the grade could have very well been even higher if you're comfortable or prefer the more console controller UX. I know there's a lot of people, especially the Asian MMO community, that really just can't get into the game because of the look of the characters. Not gonna lie, minus maybe a couple of decent fits, most of the models in this game do look pretty bad. Certainly not sexy. This is obviously a very subjective thing, however, which is why I didn't include it in my grading system. Otherwise, games like RuneScape would get an F grade for it. If it is a huge turnoff for you that you can't get over, then, well, this game isn't gonna be for you. Otherwise, definitely a passing grade and recommending one in my
This Thrasher is sitting here stealthed up.
Of New World and what you would grade it in the comment section below. And also let me know what you thought of this video format or this structure. I'm happy to do it for more games if there's enough positive feedback. I'll see you guys in the next video.
Please welcome to the stage 4-time McDonald's Monopoly Instant winner.
What?
Kudos.
Wow, thank you all so much for coming out tonight. It's with great pleasure that I am thrilled to be honored to share with you a clip from our upcoming chance to rile people up. The games industry needed to be taken seriously. They needed.
Please welcome to the stage 4-time McDonald's Monopoly Instant winner.
Instant winner.
Kudos.
four-time Monopoly instant winner.
Wow, thank you all so much for coming out tonight. It's with great pleasure that I am thrilled to be honored to share with you a clip from our upcoming video, The Many Scandals of E3.
What's up, world?
Can we skip this?
I'm Travis Scott. This is my McDonald's order.
The year is 1995, and video games are on the verge of collapse. Whoa, free cube. This beautiful intersection of art and interactivity and jiggle physics, the next frontier of storytelling and human expression, reduced to yet another scapegoat in a long line of scapegoats. In the eyes of the public, violent video games and youth violence went hand in controller, and politicians were salivating at the chance to rile people up. The games industry needed to be taken seriously. They needed. E3 was an unforgettable experience, even if you'd never been. Day after day of massive announcements, live streams, elaborate booths, sneak peeks at the newest games, consoles, and gimmicks, all peppered with some of the most uncomfortable moments ever broadcast to the internet. And wouldn't you know it, even the founding of E3 was a scandal. Today, two of the most popular games amongst kids are a literal shooter and a game where you can set animals on fire so that their meat comes out pre-cooked when they die. So it's easy to forget that there was once a period where video games were vilified for their violence, with gory video games like Mortal Kombat and Kirby's Race War making their way
Kirby's
on
Race
consoles.
War.
Parents and politicians grew concerned that greedy game growers would happily indoctrinate a new generation of school shooters if it meant they could sell just a few cartridges more. This culminated in the 93-94 congressional hearings, headed by Senators Joe Lieberman and Herb Cole, who sounds like a fucking Star Wars character. Now, while the link between being a violent baby and owning gun for the original Xbox are tenuous at best.
Wow.
These hearings did make one valid point. Video games had no consistent rating system. This meant the moms of pre-internet America had to trust that their kids wouldn't lie about the gory nudity or full frontal violence that these consoles were now able to render in 16 glorious bits. Let's just hope little Timmy doesn't come across a man made of Lego or his fucking Winter Soldier style program will kick in and try and pull off both his head and spine in one move. The government gave these proto-nerds an ultimatum. Either your industry creates a rating system, or the government will, and it will probably be done badly, because it's the US government. At the time, Sega and Nintendo were in the midst of one of the bloodiest console wars in gaming history, and this rivalry spilled into the hearings, with goody two-shoes Nintendo boasting about how they required Mortal Kombat to replace all the blood with cum in their version, unlike those charlatans over at Sega. When it became apparent they needed to establish a consistent rating system, Nintendo also refused to adopt the crude rating system that Sega used on their own products, as this would be like admitting they were right all along, I guess. Grow up, Nintendo. But once it became apparent that this was bigger than just them, Sega, Nintendo, and a whole bunch of other cunts all came together to create the ESA, the Entertainment Software Association. They created the ESRB, the rating system still used in North America to this day. And what a coincidence, they also created E3. You're wondering where I was going with all that shit. It was them. They made E3. Violence wasn't the only stigma orbiting video games in the mid-90s. Unlike mature, socially acceptable activities like driving home drunk from the pub at 2 a.m. or sitting on the couch watching sport all day, video games were dismissed as toys. This stigma bled into the consumer electronic industry, where our scrappy heroes were undervalued and underestimated. Before Sega and Nintendo peddled their wares at E3, they were peddling all over themselves at the Consumer Electronics Show, or CES. These events were hugely important for networking and enticing buyers from retailers big and small. But CES seemed almost embarrassed to include video games alongside electronic address books and back massages, opting to put them up in a tent in a parking lot nearby. Pat Farrell, head of GamePro magazine, played here by an actor, told Polygon,
"They put some porta potties out there and a little snacks stand where you could pick up a cookie. Everyone was like, this is bullshit. This is like Afghanistan.
Tom Kalinske, then CEO of Sega of America, said, "You had to walk past the porn section to get to the video game section. One year it was raining and the water leaked onto my Genesis machines. Oh boy." I turned to my team and I said, "That's it. We're never coming back here again." And lo, Sega never did. But the remaining companies like Nintendo were reluctant to leave CES out of fear that they might not be allowed back into the prestigious event should they come crawling back with their strange furry tails tucked between their legs. How do those furries keep that tail so realistically attached to their backs? Oh. Hey. You should follow me here. Enjoy the Discord. When a meeting was arranged between CES and the game companies who were frustrated with how they were being treated, the Consumer Electronics Show basically told them,
Beat up, banana, 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 ha 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 ha. But today, I want to talk to you about something serious. Look, you guys make toys. We don't really consider you consumer electronics, but you're welcome to exhibit at our show. So basically, live with it.
This was the final straw. To quote Aretha Franklin, they weren't getting any...
You're so dumb.
RESPPT. Not from the government and not from their peers. They needed to change that. They needed an event of their own. They need... yeah. Not as impressive this time.
I don't like this guy. It's weird because I don't see a sub. I'm not. Where does sub go? Did our subs gone or what?
They weren't getting any RESPPT.
It's weird because I'm not sub to this guy. I don't know. Hi, kitty. I've got to stand up. Don't get on top of me. Sorry.
It was 7 a.m. and I was on a run and I got a call from my mom and she said, "You got to turn on the TV. There are planes flying into buildings. It's complete chaos." All I can remember was just looking at the TV set in complete shock.
I remember this now. We watched this one. Why did you re-recommend it? It's weird. Yeah, I got this. I think I'm gonna duck, well, no, I already came into this. So can I go to this scout one? Oh, hello, kitty. You want to come see me? Yeah, sorry. I've been cooking. I'm going to have to get back up in a minute, so just be used to it. Come here. Hi. You seem to really want to come up and stand on top of me, and I don't really understand that, kitty. It's like you feel like you're dominating me. I'm the leader, bitch. You understand? Yep. I should probably de-scan before I just jump in here. No, I'm okay. Oh, purry kitty. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You gonna purr for me, kitty? I can. Oh, there we go. I cannot see my microphone. It appears that it turned down my mouse again for some reason, so let's go back and take a look. Yeah, the microphone, it's fucking annoying. Hungry today for some reason, and I'm eating like 3 meals, and I don't usually do that. I'm just hungry. Been walking 5 miles a day, and it kind of takes it out of you. I want to watch this later tonight. I think that might be funny. No, I want you to stop. Stop. Hi, kitty. I'll just stand up soon. Oh, yeah, the kitty. The kitty. I like her so much. Purr, purr. Hello, the kitty. You keep falling, kitty. Just get up top of me again. Yeah. Oh, I love her. I love her. Hello, kitty. I gotta get off me now. Yep, get off me for just a second. I gotta go cook. Yep. Sorry, kitty. No. I love you, kitty. I love you, sissy. I love you, sissy. I'm just busy. Don't be a player hater, cat. I'm just busy, you know. You know. Yeah, this is done. It's done. Give it to me. Fucking fast. Give me a hot meal really fucking fast. Give me a hot meal really fucking fast. Oh, kitty. Oh, yeah, kitty. How you doing? I have to get water. I have to get water in the glass. Watch out for the kitty. Am I gonna spill on you, kitty? Oh, I might. Sorry, kitty. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. My God, I'm an idiot. My God, I'm an idiot, kitty. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Got you all wet, you dirty kitty. Hey, get out of my fucking dinner, kitty. You dirty kitty. Stay away from my dinner, kitty. I'm just kidding. Okay, I'm gonna eat this right now, kitty, and ignore you. Sorry. Go back to the main page. No, main page. It's the end of the day. I'm drunk and tired. You thought Watergate was the whole story. It's not. Okay, let's listen to that. This stinks of like actually. This is good.
There's the problem of the continued blackmail, which will not only go on now, it will go on when these people are in prison, and it will compound the obstruction of justice situation. It will cost money. It's dangerous. Nobody, the people around here are not pros to it. And there's something mafia people can do. Washing money, getting clean money, and things like that. We just don't know about those things because we're not used, we're not criminals, we're not used to dealing in that business. It's a tough thing to know how to do. Whether we can even do it. Plus, there's a real problem in raising
That's
money.
Howard Hunt.
Mitchell has been working on raising some money. I would say these people are going to cost $1 million over the next few years.
In all of my years of public life, I have never profited from public service. I've earned every cent. And in all of my years of public life, I have never obstructed justice.
Nixon's mental state.
You are Richard Nixon, you fucking liar. You're worse than Trump.
Presidency were filled with paranoia, anxiety, tension, defiance.
Crazy right-wingers.
He was increasingly angry. He was drinking more heavily. And he was obsessed that his enemies were out to get him.
In all the decisions I have made in my public life, I have always tried to do what was best for the nation.
The war in Vietnam is a combined and joint effort.
If he continues blocking the peace proposals, President Xi runs the risk of alienating Washington and President Nixon.
Priority foreign policy objective of our next administration will be bring an honorable end to the war in Vietnam.
Even though the president feels more at home in the field of foreign affairs, it's obvious that he's got a lot of repair work to do at home.
There were huge problems with his administration, most notably the abuse of power.
Public opinion moved dramatically against him over the weekend. There were also dangerous signs coming from Capitol Hill, suggestions that even Republicans would not defend Mr. Nixon against impeachment.
Americans really lost trust in their political figures. There were greater levels of cynicism, and Americans just became more critical of politicians in general. And so I think probably his biggest legacy is the lack of trust that Americans now have in politicians.
Others will sit in their homes and watch as Richard Nixon.
His biggest legacy is distrust.
Nixon makes his historic announcement.
Yeah, we've seen this before. Trump is not the first one. We've seen 3 of these. Nixon, Baby Bush, and Trump.
Any means from the Oval Office.
You could say Daddy Bush too, but he was fine.
Richard M. Nixon.
He only repealed the assault
This
weapons
is the
ban.
37th time I have spoken to you from this office, where so many decisions have been made that shape the history of this nation. Yeah.
That is such a nice room. I get scared that this might be DMCA music on this fucking documentary. And I think I'm probably fine. I think it's just specialty music. It wouldn't be on YouTube for free if it wasn't. YouTube will tell me.
So on June 17th, 17th, 1972, several burglars were caught invading the Democratic National Committee office in the Watergate complex in D.C.
Hoping that Mr. Nixon's speech had magically put an end to the Watergate affair, they were soon brought down to earth. Watergate is still very much with us, as the new disclosures in the Ellsberg trial have shown.
We seem to have got established that there were three important people in the White House who were responsible for the Watergate break-in. Is it now true that we know most of what had happened and who was responsible, or is there a bigger story yet to be told?
I think for the first time we're starting to see the general outlines of the whole conspiracy and the subsequent cover-up. I still think there's a good deal more to be told than has been revealed, and there's still a lot of facts in question.
Now, at the beginning, no one really knew who these guys were, what were they doing, and who were they affiliated with. But they made several stupid mistakes in that they left some documents that showed that they were part of the Nixon re-election committee, and they even had the White House phone number on these documents that the burglars left behind.
Last June 17, while I was in Florida trying to get a few days' rest after my visit to Moscow, I first learned from news reports of the Watergate break-in. I was appalled at this senseless, illegal action.
I love you so much.
And I was shocked to learn that employees of the re-election committee were apparently among those guilty. I immediately ordered an investigation by appropriate government authorities.
The investigation, however, is generating its own problems, with the Senate this morning voting in a resolution insisting that the President appoint a special prosecutor to handle the inquiry.
I repeatedly asked those conducting the investigation whether there was any reason to believe that members of my administration were in any way involved. I received repeated assurances that there were none.
But though Nixon kept denying his involvement, bit by bit, more information started to come to light that he was highly involved and that he actually did know about the break-in. And worse yet, it wasn't so bad that he knew about the break-in, but that he was engaged in a huge cover-up and was abusing presidential power.
I recognize that some will continue to smear, regardless of what the truth may be, but that there has been understandably some honest misunderstanding on this matter. And there's some that will say, well, maybe you were able, Senator, to fake this thing. How can we believe what you say?
Richard Nixon was perhaps the most misunderstood president in American history. But to truly understand his narrative, we must start from the beginning. Who better to guide us through his early life than the man himself?
I'll have to start early. I was born in 1913. Our family was one of modest circumstances, and most of my early life was spent in a store out in Eastwood. It was a grocery store, one of those family enterprises. The only reason we were able to make it go was because my mother and dad had 5 boys, and we all worked in the store.
His brother died at the age of 7, and another brother died when he was 20 years old. And this made it really difficult for Richard Nixon because he had to support the family, particularly because his mother spent a lot of time trying to take care of his brother who had been diagnosed with tuberculosis. He didn't come from riches, he didn't come from the elites, and he felt like he had to work incredibly hard to achieve what he did.
I worked my way through college and to a great extent through law school.
Nixon was incredibly intelligent. He did really well in school. In fact, he was accepted to Harvard University, but he had to reject this offer because his brother was sick with tuberculosis and his mother had to take care of him. So he decided instead to go to Whittier College, where he would support his family there. He did incredibly well, and then he went on to go to Duke Law School, where he graduated 3rd in his class.
And then, in 1940, probably the best thing that ever happened to me happened. I married Pat, who's sitting over here. We had a rather difficult time after we were married, like so many of the young couples who may be listening to us. I practiced law. She continued to teach school. Then in 1942, I went into the service.
Then Pearl Harbor, and in Congress, the American declaration of war against Japan.
Because Richard Nixon was a Quaker, he did not have to serve in the military, but he was inspired after the Pearl Harbor bombing.
That since the unprovoked and dastardly attack by Japan, a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
When we came out of the war, Pat and I, the total of our savings from both my law practice, her teaching, and all the time that I was in the war, the total for that entire period was just a little less than $10,000. Well, that's where we start when I go into politics.
Eisenhower grandchildren with their parents.
It's all loud. Okay, guys. I'm going to stop here. You've been watching. Sorry, my cat. You've been watching Skycat Live. I'm a full-time variety gamer. I'm going to bed. It has been, it's been about 14 hours or something. Or like for me, it's been 14 hours. So I'm going to bed, and I love you guys. Thank you so much. If I can get my mouse here, you've been watching Skycat Live. Come to skycat.live and click on the cat space to donate. Come to the Twitch or the YouTube. Give me a like, sub, or follow. Thank you so much, guys. I'll be back for some more video games in the morning. Got to call my aunt in the morning, which will slow me down a little bit. But other than that, it should be the normal day. Thank you for being there in and out every single day with me. It's a good time to be there. And I love you guys. Thank you. And I will see you later. Bye. And I'm going to stop this video here.